Although archaeology may not be everyone's idea of a fun subject, when you start to delve a little deeper into it, the study of the human past through the examination of material remains reveals a most fascinating field of study. The digs in the desert to find Egyptian mummies or old Viking tombs that Hollywood glamorises certainly have their place, but there is more to archaeology than just the film-worthy stuff. You'd be forgiven for thinking that archaeology is a study of the past, those departed from life and the long forgotten. But, in reality, the discipline is a study of humans, and more specifically, human life. You see, it's important to understand how people lived before us, even if it was thousands of years ago. Some of the world's oldest but best-known civilizations, such as the Roman, Egyptian, Greek, or Mayan empires, give us an invaluable insight into how society has developed over the years. In other words, it shows us why we live and learn the way we do today, and the best thing is that there is always more to discover. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 fascinating recent archaeological discoveries. The Great Flood. We have already discovered that there may be a connection between Sumerian mythology and the Christian Bible. Many people across the world will know the story of Noah's Ark. If you are not familiar with it, Noah's Ark is the tale illustrated in Genesis, one of the books of the Old Testament, of God instructing Noah to build an ark to save himself, his family, and examples of all the world's animals from an impending great flood. Noah ultimately succeeded and saves mankind and the animals from the flood, but what exactly is the flood? The flood myth is a myth in which an almighty figure sends a great flood to destroy mankind in some sort of divine revenge against a sin. As well as being depicted in Christianity, there is a version of the story of Noah's Ark in the Quran of Islam and other Abrahamic religions. The Sumerians alluded to the Great Flood in their tablets. In their story, the god Enlil decided that the humans that the god Enki had created had become too noisy and decided to wipe them out with a great flood. Enki warned the hero Upnapishtim, equivalent to Noah, to create a giant ship named the Preserver of Life. He does this and successfully saves mankind, again much like Noah. The noise that was angering the gods can be interpreted in different ways. For example, some believe that this means that humans were defying the power of the gods, and the gods then executed bloodthirsty, ruthless punishment against them. This is actually a fairly common theme amongst Sumerian myths. The clay tablets of the Sumerians told this story, saying, Enlil heard their noise and addressed the great gods. The noise of mankind has become too intense for me. With their uproar I am deprived of sleep. Cut off supplies for the peoples. Let there be a scarcity of planet life to satisfy their hunger. Adad should withhold his rain, and below the flood should not come up from the abyss. Like any ancient mysteries, we cannot be sure whether these things actually happened, as with a lot in religion. The collected evidence only tells us so much, and of course it is important to keep in mind the evidence is thousands and thousands of years old. Unanswered questions are frustrating. History throws a lot of them up, but one thing is for sure, these mysteries are really quite fascinating. Oldest DNA from Africa offers clues to mysterious ancient culture. Some things that can leave clues to the past are much smaller than artifacts. In fact, one of the most informative relics is DNA. And as one of the oldest cemeteries in the world, having existed for 15,000 years, the Gros de Pigeon cemetery in Morocco stands to hold quite a bit of information about the past in the form of these microscopic double helixes. Inside these caves, mysterious civilizations buried their dead sitting up, adorned with animal horns and homemade beads. Before DNA testing was an option, scientists based their assumptions about the origins of that culture on the sophisticated weapons and arrowheads that were also found in the caves, leading them to believe that the people who lived there might have been part of a surprisingly advanced set of Europeans that migrated to North Africa, much earlier than this exposure had previously been thought to have happened. because some European Stone Age cultures had developed similar weapons during this same time frame. Although of mysterious origin, there was no doubt that this Stone Age civilization was highly advanced and had developed microlith blades that were more deadly and efficient than the primitive stones that other nearby people were using. For lack of more information, historians and archaeologists called these people the Ibero-Maurusians, hypothesizing that they must have been related to the people on the Iberian Peninsula, and that these people had migrated across North Africa and spread across the areas of Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, and the Mediterranean Sea. However, recently, scientists were able to gather samples of DNA from some samples of inner ear bones that were recovered and sequence the ancestry of the people buried there, and what they found surprised them. The DNA results were published in a report that revealed that the people of the Gros de Pigeon had no genetic link to southern Europe, and were instead closely linked to the Natufian culture that would later appear in the Middle East. The Natufians and the Ibero-Maurusians likely shared common ancestors through migration from North Africa and the Middle East, with about 1/3 of their DNA matching those of sub-Saharan Africans, meaning that the mysterious and advanced cave people of Morocco had indeed highly likely developed these technologies without influence from the rest of the world. This discovery has allowed historians and archaeologists to better understand the migration of peoples and cultures within Africa. Before the Ibero-Maurusian DNA was sequenced, there had been no viable DNA uncovered from before the introduction of agriculture, and we were forced to simply make our best guesses about how people mixed and travelled. A relic of the precious blood. In 1247, King Henry III claimed to have his hands on an incredibly precious artifact, a vial containing Jesus' blood. He instructed his nobles to gather for a meeting at Westminster Abbey, London, for the purpose of sharing something with them. This was of the utmost importance, but at the time did not say exactly what he would be disclosing prior to the event. Rather, he only referred to it in vague terms as a holy benefit. As the nobles eagerly and curiously gathered, King Henry finally disclosed the reasoning behind such a gathering. He relayed that he was in possession of what he claimed to be drops of Jesus' blood, which was securely enclosed within a vial. His claims were backed up by various means that would have indicated immense credibility at the time, such as seals from bishops, Knights Templars, and the Patriarch of Jerusalem. The king ceremoniously carried the vial within his own hands, taking it to the abbey where he entrusted it in the hands of monks. The bishop claimed that whoever praised the relic would be blessed with 6 years plus 160 days of indulgences. For avid Christian followers, this was most certainly a holy benefit. Surprisingly though, the reveal of the relic did not gather as much attention as one would expect. This was probably due to the fact that its authenticity and credibility was questioned. Another similar relic was claimed to have been found in a different abbey located in Gloucestershire. This artifact was met with a lot more excitement. As it turns out though, whoever doubted the authenticity of the relic was not wrong to do so. In fact, King Henry VIII put the vial to the test. The examiners concluded that it was not Jesus' blood, but rather a combination mixture of honey, saffron, and maybe goose blood. Some argue that it may have been presented as a political move on King Henry III's part to gain the trust of his people. Today, other exhibits with the same claims exist, with the most famous one being the Basilica of the Holy Blood located in Belgium.